In this course, we have learned some general concepts about AI, particularly generative AI. We have seen how generative AI can be used to build AI-enabled chatbots, workspaces, and agents. We have also learned about its limitations, the risks that comes with using it, and the good habits that can help you use it effectively. In this unit, we will bring these ideas together. We will look at how you can apply what we've learned to 4 broad categories of tasks: learning, knowledge work, creation and communication, and structured work. Let's begin with learning. Whether you are a university student or an adult learner hoping to acquire new knowledge or skills, AI can be an effective learning partner. Learning tasks are different from ordinary production tasks. The goal is not simply to produce a correct answer. The goal is to improve the learner's capability. Real learning requires practice. It requires learners to work through difficulties and at times to struggle. Through that process, learners can discover misconceptions, identify gaps in their understanding, and develop the ability to solve similar problems independently. AI can support this learning process in 4 main ways: through explanation, practice, tutoring, and diagnosis. Let's look at each of these in turn. Difficult concepts often remain confusing when you encounter only one explanation. AI can provide alternative explanations, analogies, examples, and descriptions of common misconceptions. This allows you to approach the same concept from several different angles. For example, you might first ask AI to help you build an intuitive understanding. You can then ask for a concrete example, followed by a more formal definition. You can also ask AI to compare the new concept with something you already understand. Seeing the same idea expressed in different ways can help you develop a deeper and more reliable understanding. Skills improve through repeated practice. AI can make practice more readily available by generating questions from your lecture notes, textbook sections, or a list of topics. You can ask for questions at different levels of difficulty and depth. For example, instead of asking only for questions that test factual recall, you can ask for questions that require applications, analysis, or evaluation. For exam-style questions, you can also ask AI to provide marking criteria so that you know what a strong answer should contain. But remember, reading an answer is not the same as producing one. When asking AI to generate practice questions, tell it not to reveal the answers until you explicitly ask for them. Always attempt the questions yourself first. Good learning support is interactive, not merely informational. A well-prompted AI tutor can keep you actively engaged by asking questions, providing hints, and adjusting its support as your understanding improves. A tutor should guide learning rather than simply giving away answers. So a good tutor asks questions, listens for misconceptions, provides feedback, and gradually reduces its support as the learner becomes more capable. So, you should therefore prompt AI to provide scaffolded guidance rather than immediately producing the final answer. For example, when you are struggling with a concept or a problem, tell AI not to reveal the full solution unless you ask for it. Instead, ask it to give you one guiding question at a time. If you are still stuck, ask for a small hint before asking for a complete solution. This turns AI into a tool for active learning rather than a shortcut around learning. One of the challenges of learning is that you often do not know what you do not know. AI can help by examining an attempted answer and identifying where your reasoning first begins to go wrong. This can be useful even when your final answer happens to be correct. To use AI for diagnostic learning, give it your attempted answer and ask it to identify any misconceptions, missing steps, unsupported claims, or unclear reasoning. You can also ask it to explain why a particular step is weak or incorrect. This is often more valuable than asking AI to produce a polished answer for you. You learn more by diagnosing and revising your own reasoning. A common idea runs through all four of these uses of AI for learning. You must preserve what learning science calls productive struggle. Productive struggle refers to the purposeful effort involved in grappling with an academic challenge. The mental work of trying to make sense of a problem, testing possible approaches, making mistakes, and revising your thinking is crucial to learning. AI can harm your learning when it removes the struggle altogether or removes it too early. So, never ask for a full solution before making a serious attempt on your own. Let me repeat. The general principle is simple. Attempt first, then ask AI to critique your answer and explain your mistakes. When you are stuck, ask for hints before asking for a complete solution. And after you have solved the problem, ask AI to quiz you or to generate similar practice questions to check whether you truly understand it. The goal is not merely to finish the task. The goal is to become more capable of completing similar tasks independently. We now move from learning concepts to working with knowledge. University and professional work often require us to make sense of far more information than we can read casually. AI can help us extract, compare, organize, and interpret that information. But knowledge work is different from ordinary text generation. The output must be faithful to its sources. A useful response must preserve the evidence, the nuances, the areas of disagreement, and the correct attribution of ideas. Let's look at how AI can support several types of knowledge work. Academic and professional texts are not simply containers of facts. When reading them, you need to identify their main claims, supporting evidence, assumptions, and limitations. AI can help direct your attention to these important elements. Here is how AI can help you read. Before reading an article, you can ask AI to provide a short preview. What is the article mainly about? What questions is it trying to answer? And what should I pay attention to as I read? During reading, you can ask AI to explain a difficult paragraph using a simpler language, a different example, or an analogy. After reading, you can ask AI to summarize the article's main arguments, evidence, assumptions, and limitations. You can then compare the AI's interpretation with your own understanding. When the two interpretations differ, do not automatically assume that the AI is right. Return to the source, reread the relevant sections, and interact with the AI to determine why the disagreement occurred. Besides reading, AI is also useful for summarization. When asking AI to summarize something, remember to specify the necessary context and format. Without a clear instruction, the AI may produce a generic summary that leaves out the details that matter to you. For example, asking for 5 key points may be useful when you need a quick overview. But for study or research, it may be more helpful to ask AI to extract the key definitions, assumptions, claims, evidence, and limitations. A good summary depends on your purpose. So, before asking the AI to summarize, decide what information you need to retain and how you intend to use it. AI is also useful for synthesizing information. Summarizing and synthesizing are related, but they are not the same. A summary reduces one source of information, while a synthesis combines multiple sources to produce a broader understanding. AI can help you compare and contrast different sources, identify common themes, and locate important areas of disagreement among the sources. But identifying similarities and differences is only the beginning. You, as a human, must still interpret why those differences exist, whether they matter, and what conclusions can visibly be drawn from them. You should be the one to make the judgment. Using AI for knowledge work has its risk. Knowledge work depends on trust in the sources and on faithful interpretation. However, generative AI may invent citations, distort the emphasis of a source, remove important caveats, or overlook assumptions stated by the author. It may also confuse which argument came from which source. It is therefore worth repeating an important principle. You should always verify the AI's output against the original sources. Always compare its interpretation with your own understanding or what you have read. Remember, AI should not replace the work of reading the sources yourself. You remain accountable for the knowledge work that you produce. We have seen how AI can support learning, reading, summarizing, and synthesis. We now shift from understanding information to expressing ideas. This means using AI to communicate more clearly while preserving your own voice, judgment, and responsibility. Communication matters because it is one of the most visible ways in which other people evaluate your thinking. AI can help improve clarity, structure, and adaptation to different audiences. But when used carelessly, it can also make your work sound generic. AI should therefore be treated as a partner, not simply as the author of your work. Use AI to support brainstorming, planning, drafting, revising, and critiquing. But you should remain responsible for the message, the argument, the evidence, and the final wording. When you use AI to brainstorm for different possible ideas, remember, the strongest material often comes from your own experiences, evidence, and judgment. So, rather than asking AI to immediately provide a list of ideas, you can ask it to begin by asking you questions. For example, when writing a reflective piece, you might ask AI to pose questions that help you recall specific experiences, decisions, difficulties, and lessons. Only after that, you might ask it to suggest possible themes or outlines based on what you have shared. In this way, AI helps you uncover your own materials, rather than replacing it with generic ideas. AI can also help you adapt a message for different audiences and purposes. For example, you may begin with a formal policy document and later need to present the same information in an email, in a briefing, or a presentation. You can ask AI to adapt the message for a specific audience. When you do so, be clear about the intended purpose, tone, stance, length, and format. The core message may remain the same, but the way it is communicated should change according to the audience and situation. Besides essays, documents, and emails, AI can support presentations. For example, when you are preparing to give a presentation, you can ask AI to act as a member of the audience and pose questions to you to help you practice for a Q&A session. You can also ask it to critique your presentation for clarity, organization, tone, and suitability for the intended audience. This can help you identify points that may be confusing, unsupported, or difficult to follow in your presentation. AI can also generate visual content, including images and short videos. This visual can help make abstract ideas easier to understand and easier to remember. The basic structure for prompting visual generation is similar to prompting for text. You still need to specify the task, the context, the constraints, and the desired format. But visual generation often requires more detailed constraints. For example, you may need to specify the camera position, the relative positions of different subjects, the visual style, the color scheme, and what should not appear in the image. The clearer your visual instructions are, the more likely the output will match your intention. However, generated images and videos must be used responsibly. Avoid using them to mislead viewers, fabricate evidence, imitate real people without permission, or reinforce harmful stereotypes. Before we move to the final category of tasks, let us highlight some of the risks involved in using AI for communication and creation. First, avoid becoming too dependent on AI-generated text. AI writing may be polished, but it can also be predictable and generic. Readers often want to hear your judgment, your experience, and your position. In a university setting, you may also be assessed based on your own reasoning, writing, and judgment. You must therefore understand what forms of AI use are permitted in each course. Always check the relevant course rules, assessment instructions, and institutional policies. So far, we have focused on learning, knowledge work, communication, and creative work. The final category is structured work. This includes tasks involving tables, spreadsheets, data analysis, document processing, and automation. Examples include cleaning a spreadsheet, writing a spreadsheet formula, analyzing a data set, or extracting specific fields from a collection of documents. Structured and technical tasks are different because their outputs must often be precise, executable, reproducible, or checkable. A plausible sounding explanation is not enough. A formula must calculate the correct value, a data transformation must preserve the meaning of the data, and an automation must behave safely and consistently. For structured work to work, your prompt must clearly specify the input, the required output, and the constraints. For example, when asking AI to help with a spreadsheet, Explain what each column represents, how the columns are related, and what results you want to produce. You should also specify how the AI should handle corner cases, such as missing values, duplicated records, invalid entries, or unexpected formats. When the task is complex, provide one or more examples of the expected input and output. Where possible, also specify the success criteria. Tell AI how you will determine whether the output is correct. When asking AI to analyze a collection of data, check whether the analytical method it uses is appropriate for the variables, the research question, and the limitations of the data. Do not accept an analysis simply because it appears sophisticated or produces an impressive-looking result. You should always verify the output. Where possible, perform part of the task yourself. For example, test the result using several input samples, including normal cases and important corner cases. When using generative AI for structured tasks, remember that the language model itself primarily generates plausible continuations. By itself, it is not a calculator, a database, or a deterministic computation engine. However, tool-enabled LLMs and AI agents may be able to invoke additional tools, such as calculators, search systems, or spreadsheet software. This tool can make the system more capable, but remember, they do not remove the need for verification. You must still check the process, test the result, and remain accountable for the final output. We have seen how to work with AI for 4 broad categories of tasks. Each category has some usage guidelines that are worth paying attention to. When using AI for learning, remember to preserve productive struggle. Never use AI to do your homework or practice for you. Instead, use AI to help you understand the materials, identify your gaps, critique your work, and challenge your understanding. When using AI for knowledge work, use AI to help you focus on what to pay attention to when you read, not to replace the need to read. Have a dialogue with AI to compare your understanding. Since knowledge work must stay true to the source, always verify the output from the AI against the source. When using AI for creating and communication, remember to maintain your own voice, judgment, and experience. Avoid using AI to generate the entire message on your behalf, except for routine or low-value work where AI may be good enough. Use it as a partner to brainstorm and to critique your writing. When using AI to generate visual content, use it responsibly. Finally, when using generative AI for structured tasks, pay attention to the specification of the task. AI may invoke tools to respond, but we should always verify that the output is correct. This concludes Unit 7. In the last unit, we will conclude the course by reviewing the good habits of an AI native user.